The garage door closed behind Isabel Morgan with a hollow metallic sound that seemed to echo through her chest. She stood in the darkness, clutching the thin blanket Katherine Ashford had tossed at her, and tried not to cry. Through the wall, she could hear the dinner party continuing in the main house. Laughter, clinking glasses, the murmur of Boston's elite celebrating her engagement to Katherine's son. But she wasn't welcome at that table. Not anymore. Not after what Katherine had discovered. Isabel sank onto the cold concrete floor beside her fiancé's vintage car collection, each vehicle worth more than her mother's house, and pulled out her phone. There was one text message waiting, sent an hour ago from a number she didn't recognize. Check the glove compartment of the blue Bentley. Everything you need to know is there. A friend. Her hands shook as she stood and walked toward the car, not knowing that what she was about to find would destroy the Ashford family's carefully constructed empire and reveal a truth that would change her life forever. Stay with me until the end, because this story will touch your heart in ways you won't expect. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video, hit subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. Now, let's begin. Isabel's fingers trembled as she reached for the Bentley's door handle. The garage was cold. It was March in Boston, and Katherine had turned off the heat out here deliberately. This was punishment. This was Katherine's way of showing Isabel exactly where she belonged in the Ashford hierarchy. Not in the guest rooms upstairs with their Egyptian cotton sheets and heated floors, but here, among the cars and storage boxes, like something to be hidden away. 6 months earlier, Isabel had been working double shifts as a nurse at Massachusetts General Hospital, living in a cramped studio apartment in Dorchester, and trying to pay off her mother's medical bills. Her father had died when she was 12, leaving her mother, Rosa, to raise 3 children alone while cleaning houses. Isabel had put herself through nursing school with scholarships, loans, and sheer determination. At 28, she was finally stable, not comfortable, but surviving. Then she met Daniel Ashford in the hospital emergency room at 2 a.m. He'd come in with his elderly neighbor who'd fallen, refusing to leave until he knew she'd be okay. Isabel had been struck by his kindness, the way he'd held the frightened woman's hand and called her by name. He didn't look like the billionaire heir he was. He wore jeans and an old MIT sweatshirt, and his eyes were warm and genuine. They'd talked while waiting for the X-ray results. He'd asked about her work, really listened to her answers, and made her laugh for the first time in months. When he asked for her number, she'd hesitated. She could tell from his watch alone that they lived in different worlds, but something in his smile made her say yes. The next 6 months had been like a dream. Daniel was everything his mother wasn't. Humble, thoughtful, genuinely interested in her life and her family. He'd had dinner in her tiny apartment and praised her cooking. He'd met her mother and siblings and treated them with respect. He'd told her that his wealth was an accident of birth, that what mattered was who you were, not what you had. When he proposed 3 weeks ago at a quiet restaurant in the North End, Isabel had cried with joy. She'd been terrified of meeting his family, but Daniel had assured her they'd love her. "My mother can be difficult," he'd admitted, "but she'll see what I see, that you're extraordinary." He'd been catastrophically wrong. Katherine Ashford had taken one look at Isabel during their first meeting, and her expression had frozen into polite contempt. The interrogation had begun immediately. Where did Isabel go to school? What did her parents do? Where did she grow up? Each answer had made Katherine's lips thin further. Dorchester. Community college before nursing school. Father deceased. Mother a housekeeper. The engagement party tonight had been Katherine's idea, a small family gathering at the Ashford estate in Beacon Hill. But when Isabel arrived, she'd realized it was a test. A gauntlet designed to prove she didn't belong. 70 guests, all from Boston's oldest families, all watching her with curious, judgmental eyes. Katherine had introduced her as Daniel's little friend 3 times before Daniel corrected her. Then, an hour into the party, Katherine had pulled Isabel aside into the study. "I had you investigated," she'd said coldly, closing the door. "I know about your mother's bankruptcy. I know about your brother's arrest record. Just a DUI, but still. I know you're drowning in student debt. I know exactly what you are." Isabel had felt her face burn. "What I am is a nurse who works 60-hour weeks and takes care of people. What I am is someone who loves your son. What you are, Katherine had hissed, is a gold digger who saw an opportunity. Do you think I'll let you destroy everything I've built? The Ashford name goes back 6 generations in this city. We don't mix with people like you. Daniel loves me. He chose me. Daniel is naive. He's always had a savior complex, bringing home stray cats, befriending the help, donating to every sob story. You're just his latest charity case. Katherine had stepped closer, her perfume overwhelming. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to stay for the rest of this party because leaving would cause gossip, but you won't sleep in my guest rooms. You'll sleep in the garage where you belong. And tomorrow morning, you'll break up with my son and disappear from his life. In exchange, I'll pay off your mother's medical debt and your student loans. $500,000 to walk away. Isabel had wanted to slap her, had wanted to scream, but she'd thought of her mother, struggling to afford her medications, of her own crushing debt, of how Katherine Ashford could make her life hell if she refused. So she'd swallowed her pride and whispered, "I need to think about it." "Think fast," Katherine had said, and handed her a blanket. "The garage code is 4782. I'll have my attorney draw up the papers tonight." Now, standing in that freezing garage, Isabel felt something shift inside her. She'd spent her whole life accepting that people like the Ashfords had power, and people like her didn't. She'd learned to be grateful for scraps, to not make waves, to know her place. But Daniel had made her believe she deserved more, and that mysterious text message suggested someone else thought so too. She opened the Bentley's glove compartment. Inside was a thick manila envelope. With shaking hands, she pulled it out and opened it. Inside were documents, legal papers, financial records, and a letter in elegant handwriting. The letter read, "Dear Isabel, my name was Margaret Ashford. I was Daniel's grandmother and Katherine's mother-in-law. If you're reading this, it means Katherine has shown her true colors. I died 6 months ago, but I prepared this insurance policy because I knew what she was capable of. The documents in this envelope prove that Katherine has been embezzling from the Ashford Foundation for 15 years. Over $20 million funneled into offshore accounts. She's been using charity money meant for children's hospitals and homeless shelters to fund her lifestyle. My son, Daniel's father, never knew. He trusted her completely before he died. But I discovered the truth, and I've been gathering evidence. I've also included my will, the real one, not the fake one Katherine presented to the lawyers. In it, I leave controlling interest in Ashford Industries to Daniel, not Katherine. She forged a second will to maintain her power. Take these documents to my attorney, James Morrison, at Morrison & Associates on Newbury Street. He has the rest of the evidence and has been waiting for the right moment to act. I couldn't expose Katherine while I was alive. She would have destroyed me and hurt Daniel. But you can. You're stronger than she thinks. Don't let her break you. Don't take her money. Fight. With love and hope, Margaret." Isabel read the letter 3 times, her heart pounding. Then she carefully examined the documents. Bank statements, forged signatures, email printouts, all meticulously organized. Margaret Ashford had built an airtight case against her own daughter-in-law. The garage door suddenly opened. Daniel stood there, backlit by the house lights, his face stricken. "Isabel? Why are you out here? I've been looking everywhere for you." She stood, clutching the envelope. "Your mother told me to sleep here. She said I don't belong in the house with the real guests." Daniel's expression transformed from confusion to fury. "She what?" "She had me investigated. She knows about my family, my debt, everything. She offered me $500,000 to leave you." Isabel's voice cracked. "She called me a gold digger and a charity case. She said I'm not good enough for the Ashford name." Daniel crossed the garage in 3 strides and pulled her into his arms. "I'm so sorry. God, Isabel, I'm so sorry. I knew she could be cold. But this—" He pulled back, cupping her face. "We're leaving, right now. We'll go to your apartment, and tomorrow I'll come back and tell my mother exactly what I think of her." "Daniel, wait." Isabel held up the envelope. "There's something you need to see first." They sat in his car with the heat running while Daniel read through his grandmother's documents, his face growing paler with each page. When he finished, he sat in silence for a long moment, staring at his mother's forged signature on the fake will. "My grandmother died 6 months ago," he finally said, his voice hollow. "The same week I met you. She had a stroke. Sudden, unexpected. My mother handled all the funeral arrangements, the will, everything. She told me grandmother left her in charge of the foundation and the company because she trusted her judgment." He looked at Isabel, his eyes wet. "It was all lies. Everything was lies. Your grandmother wanted you to have this. She wanted you to know the truth." "She left this for you," Daniel said quietly. "She left it in my car, in our garage, hidden where only someone my mother had humiliated would find it. She knew exactly what my mother would do to any woman I loved who didn't meet her standards." He laughed bitterly. "My grandmother was protecting you before you even met me." Isabel took his hand. "What do you want to do?" Daniel's jaw set in a way she'd never seen before. "I want to do what my grandmother asked. I want to fight, but not tomorrow. Tonight. Right now. While all of Boston's elite are in our house watching my mother play queen." 20 minutes later, they walked back into the Ashford mansion together, hand in hand. The party was winding down, but about 40 guests remained, including several board members of the Ashford Foundation, 2 city councilors, and a reporter from the Boston Globe Society pages. Katherine stood near the fireplace, holding court, her diamond necklace glittering. She saw them enter, and her eyes narrowed. She excused herself from her conversation and approached quickly. "Daniel, darling, where have you been? And Isabel, I thought you'd retired for the evening." Her tone made it clear where she'd expected Isabel to retire to. "Mother," Daniel said loudly, his voice carrying across the room. Conversation stopped. Heads turned. "I need to ask you something in front of all these witnesses." Katherine's smile tightened. "Daniel, this isn't the time. Did you tell my fiancé to sleep in the garage tonight because she's not good enough for our guest rooms?" The room went completely silent. Katherine's face flushed. "Daniel, you're making a scene. We can discuss this privately. Did you offer her $500,000 to leave me? I was trying to protect you from a woman who clearly wants your money. And did you forge my grandmother's will to steal my inheritance and maintain control of the Ashford Foundation?" Katherine went white. "How dare you accuse me of—" Daniel pulled out the documents. "These are bank records showing you've embezzled over $20 million from the foundation over 15 years. This is my grandmother's real will, leaving me controlling interest in Ashford Industries. And this is a letter from her, explaining everything." He turned to face the room. "My grandmother, Margaret Ashford, discovered before she died that my mother has been stealing from a charity meant to help sick children and homeless families. She's been using that money to fund her lifestyle. This house, her cars, her jewelry, her social position. Everything you see here was bought with stolen charity money." The room erupted. Board members surged forward, demanding to see the documents. The Globe reporter was already on her phone. Katherine stood frozen, her carefully constructed mask finally cracking. "You're lying," she whispered. "Your grandmother loved me. She loved truth more," Isabel said quietly, stepping forward. "And she loved your son enough to protect him from you. She left these documents for me because she knew you'd try to drive away anyone Daniel loved who didn't meet your standards. She knew you'd humiliate me, test me, try to break me. And she knew that if I was strong enough to fight back, I'd be strong enough to stand beside Daniel when the truth came out." One of the foundation board members, an elderly man named Richard Chen, held up the bank statements. "Katherine, these show transfers to accounts in the Cayman Islands. The signatures match yours. If this is real, it's real," said a new voice from the doorway. A distinguished man in his 60s entered, carrying a briefcase. "I'm James Morrison, Margaret Ashford's attorney. I've been holding additional evidence per her instructions, waiting for the right moment to come forward. That moment is now." He set his briefcase on the table and opened it, pulling out more files. "I have 15 years of documentation." Margaret was meticulous. She knew Katherine would deny everything, so she made sure the evidence was irrefutable. Katherine looked around the room at the faces that had once admired her. Shocked, disgusted, angry faces. Her empire was crumbling in real time. "Daniel," she said desperately, reaching for her son. "Daniel, please, you don't understand." He stepped back, putting his arm around Isabel. "I understand perfectly. You valued money and status more than integrity. You stole from people who needed help. And you tried to destroy the woman I love because she reminded you of everything you're not. Honest, hardworking, genuinely good. I gave you everything. Catherine's voice rose to a shriek. I maintained this family's position. I protected our name. I made sure you had every advantage. You gave me lies, Daniel said quietly. Grandmother gave me truth, and Isabel gave me love. I know which one matters. The police arrived 30 minutes later, called by the foundation's board. Katherine Ashford was arrested for embezzlement, fraud, and forgery, while Boston's elite watched from the mansion's front steps. The image made the front page of every newspaper in New England, the society queen in handcuffs, her diamond necklace glittering under the camera flashes. The legal proceedings took 8 months. Katherine was convicted on all charges and sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. The $20 million was recovered and returned to the Ashford Foundation, which Daniel restructured completely, installing independent oversight and redirecting funds to the communities that needed them most. The fake will was invalidated, and Margaret's real will was executed. Daniel inherited controlling interest in Ashford Industries and immediately began transforming it, shifting focus from maximum profit to ethical business practices and community investment. But the real transformation was more personal. Daniel sold the Beacon Hill mansion. He couldn't live in a house where his mother had treated Isabel so cruelly. Instead, he and Isabel bought a brownstone in the South End, close to the hospital where she still worked 3 days a week. She'd refused to quit nursing, even after they married. This is who I am, she'd told him. I don't want to be someone who just spends your money. I want to be someone who helps people. He'd loved her even more for that. 1 year after that terrible engagement party, Isabel stood in the Ashford Foundation's new community health center in Dorchester, cutting the ribbon at the opening ceremony. The center would provide free health care to uninsured families, people like her own family had been. Daniel stood beside her, beaming with pride, and in the front row sat her mother Rosa, healthy now and crying happy tears. Also in attendance was James Morrison, Margaret's attorney, who'd become a friend and advisor. After the ceremony, he pulled Isabel aside. Margaret would be so proud, he said. She told me once that she hoped Daniel would find someone who loved him for who he was, not what he had. Someone who'd been tested by life and come through stronger. She said that kind of person would save him from becoming like his mother. She saved me too, Isabel said softly. That night in the garage, I was ready to take Catherine's money and walk away. I was so tired of fighting, of being told I wasn't good enough, but Margaret's letter reminded me that I was worth fighting for. She knew, Morrison said. She told me, the right woman will be the one Katherine tries hardest to destroy. And if she's strong enough to survive Catherine's worst, she'll be strong enough to help Daniel build something better. That evening, Isabel and Daniel sat on their brownstone's front steps, watching the sunset paint the Boston sky in shades of gold and rose. Isabel thought about that cold garage, that moment of despair, and how close she'd come to accepting Catherine's definition of her worth. What are you thinking about? Daniel asked, taking her hand. Your grandmother. How she turned her daughter-in-law's cruelty into an opportunity for truth. How she trusted me before she even knew me. She was a remarkable woman. I wish you could have met her. I feel like I did, Isabel said. Through her letter, through her faith in me. She taught me something important that night. What's that? That when someone tries to make you feel small, tries to put you in a garage and tell you that's where you belong, sometimes that's exactly where you need to be to find the truth that will set you free. Isabel smiled. Your mother thought she was punishing me. Instead, she led me right to the evidence that would expose her. She destroyed herself. Daniel pulled her close. My grandmother used to say that cruelty always contains the seeds of its own destruction. People who build their power on making others feel worthless eventually forget that those worthless people are still human beings with dignity, intelligence, and the capacity to fight back. 6 months later, Isabel gave birth to a daughter. They named her Margaret, after the grandmother who'd never met her but had protected her mother anyway. And in the nursery of their brownstone, Daniel hung a framed copy of his grandmother's letter, so that one day, when Margaret was old enough, she could read about the woman she was named for, a woman who'd understood that true strength isn't about maintaining power over others, but about using whatever power you have to protect truth and dignity. Katherine Ashford, in her prison cell, received a photo of her granddaughter, along with a note from Daniel. "This is Margaret. She'll grow up knowing that kindness matters more than status, that character matters more than wealth, and that the measure of a person is how they treat those who have less power than they do. She'll never know you, but she'll know the grandmother who saved her mother. I hope someday you understand the difference." Katherine never responded, but Isabel kept the note in Margaret's baby book anyway, a reminder of how far they'd all come, from a cold garage and a moment of despair to a life built on love, truth, and the unshakable knowledge that no one, no matter how powerful, could ever again make her feel like she belonged anywhere but exactly where she chose to be. The garage had been meant as a prison. Instead, it had been a doorway to freedom, and Isabel walked through it with her head high, carrying the truth that would change everything, proving that sometimes the people who try hardest to keep you down are standing on the shakiest ground of all. If you love stories where the truth is revealed, you've found your channel. Subscribe and turn on notifications to make sure you're always up to date with life's biggest secrets and dramas. And now, I want to hear from you. What life lesson did you learn from this story? Share your reflection in the comments and use the hashtag #TruthRevealed, also telling us the city you watched this drama from.